Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're in Masechtas Moed Katan daf Yud Zayin. We are going to begin on the bottom of Tes Zayin with base, second line from the bottom. Rabbi Tanchum. So Tanchum bereid Rabbi Chia Ishkar Ako. He said, Rabbi Yaakov bar Abba Imarav Simloi. V'Armula. Some say it was Rav Tanchum Rav Huna. V'Armula Rav Huna l'Chudei. And he said himself, as we continue to Yud Zayin with Aleph, Talmud Shenida. Which we mentioned on yesterday's daf, that if you have a student that he was disrespected in some way and he excommunicated someone, even though it was not l'shem shemayim, it was because of his own dignity, that's still a valid excommunication that he did. Decide menudal rav, menudal talmud, menudal talmud, and menudal rav. So we said that if you would do something in which would be disrespectful to the teacher, so then you're also excommunicated from all of his students. But if you did something to a student, you're not menuda to the Rav. Now the Rav who ain't a menuda. It's only that it doesn't work that you can still have a relationship with the teacher. Menuda. However, when it comes to the student and everyone else, then it is excommunicated, which means that the student does have the capacity to do so. So am I. Regarding what? If we're talking about that the reason why he did it was because of Milad Shemaya in Chachma Tifuna Ve'ein Eitza L'Neged Hashem. As this pasuk is often quoted, that when it comes to your own dignity, a person could not stand against Achil Hashem, as we learned in the third parak in Brachos, that just like a person who was wearing shatnez, we quoted this pasuk that we do not show kavod to that individual. He have to take it off in the marketplace. So we see that he could still go to his Rebbe, although a Talmud is in nidui. Elav l'chavoid atzmo. Obviously, it's talking about his own honor. Rabbi Yosef Sumer Rabbanan of Edina l'navshe. He Sumer Rabbanan, a young Talmud Chacham, is able to take this law into his own hands. As Rashi, Di'armele at mechayvis li hachi v'hachi, you're obligated to me such and such. But merely the psikale, when it comes to certain situations, when he's clear, says Rashi, shavadei hu loy v'lo safek, when he has no doubts whatsoever, then he's able to do and make a psak. Hahu sumer rabbanan, there was once a young chacham, the habit sanu Shemane, says Rashi, Sheyaitzin alav Shemois Rois. There were some negative things that were said about this individual. Rabbi Yehuda Hechi Levid. So he said, like, what should we do regarding this person? Shamte, should I excommunicate him? Srichli Rabbanan. We need him, right? In other words, says Rashi, Di'atu Dehabi Rabhoin, because it's a city where he is a leader. So we shouldn't excommunicate him. But on the other hand, lo shamte ka midchil shema deshmaya. He's desecrated Hashem, and therefore we're kind of stuck. We don't know what to do. So Amrle Rabbi Bachana midishmilach baha. Does anyone know what to do? And this was actually a very similar question that was asked regarding the butcher, that he was mezalzel a chacham, but at the same time we needed his meat for those 30 days. So, and he was Michael. The question is, are you able to remove it? Pachas mishoshim yoim. So it's the same type of shakvataria. Armali halchim Rabbi Yochanan Marich Sev. The pasuk says, "Ki siv se kayin." When it comes to the lips of the kayin, yishmeru das, they guard wisdom. B'tayra yivakshim epihu ki malach Hashem savachaisu. You should guard him because he's a Malach Hashem Savachos. So, im daim maharav ul Malach Hashem. If a teacher is comparable to a Malach Hashem, yivaksh Torah mepiv. It means then you should go and search out Torah from his mouth. V'im lav al yivaksh Torah mepiv. Then you should not. So, Shamte Rabbi Yehuda, because of that, Rabbi Yehuda in fact excommunicated him. So we see from here again a tremendous notion that a teacher is supposed to be like a Malach Hashem Savakos. It's supposed to be like an angel. What exactly does that mean? Not that you have to act perfect, but a Malach is not someone that elevates themselves. It's like a programmed thing that it does the shlichus of Hashem, and that's what a teacher is supposed to do. Your goal as a teacher is not to elevate yourself per se, but it's in order to be able to do a certain goal. And on the simple level, because this person did things which people have said are incorrect or improper, so therefore he is not representative of a Malch Hashem Savakais, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda felt it was okay to excommunicate him. Saif, later on, Ichlish Rabbi Yehuda was sick. Also, so people came to greet him to see how he's feeling. So this person who was put in cherem was also came. So Kad Chazi Rabbi Yehuda Chaych. So when Rabbi Yehuda saw him, he actually laughed. Is it not enough that you excommunicated? Referring to himself, so you're also laughing at me? I don't understand. Why are you doing this to me, Rabbi Yehuda? It's like tremendous pain that what you're doing to me. Armalei says, I'm not laughing toward you, that when you go to this world, that I'm going to be able to say that even someone like you, I did not give out flattery. So because of the possibility that maybe I would have looked upon you favorably, and maybe Hashem would have looked negatively upon that. So Noch Nafshe Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda died. Also Lebei Midrash, Samalhu Sharuli. He said, now that Rabbi Yehuda has died, mater me, remove me from the excommunication. Certainly, Rabbanan, Gaber de Chashiv, Rabbi Yehuda, Leika Hacha, Delishrilach. We don't have the ability to remove the excommunication. El Zilla Gabi de Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, go to the Nasi, Delishrilach, because maybe the Nasi has the authority to remove it. So Ozl Kamei, so they went to him, Rabbi Ami Puk Ayin Bedine, go and look into this matter. That if we want to free him from his being excommunicated, then we'll do so. So Ein Rav Ami Bedine, so he looked into it. Savar Mishrule, they were thinking about actually removing the cherem from him. Ahmed Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani al Raglav, he stood on his feet. V'Omer Umashivcha Shel Beis Rabbi. When it comes to the maid servant of the house of Rabbi, Lo Nagu Chachamim Kalos Reish Ben Nidoy Shalosh Shanim, that he was not noig among the Chachamim any level of lightheadedness in her excommunication for 3 years. So Yehuda Chevirenu Alachas Kama V'Kama. So that when it comes to Yehuda, we certainly have no right to be able to remove it. So Amar Rav Zera Umayde Kamon de Asa Ha'idna Haisabu Bebe Midrasha Daha Kamishne Hu Asa. He said there's many times that this person, interestingly enough, never came. Rav Shmuel typically did not come to the Beis Medrash for whatever reason, and it turns out that he happens to be here. Says Rashi, Kloimer, Heichim Esrami de Al Hai Saber of Shmuel Bar Nachmani Heil Beis Medrash. Pumped of all days, he happens to be found in the Beis Medrash, and he makes this drasha that when it comes to the Beis Rebbe, again, that Lo Nagu Chachamim Kals Reish Ben Nidu Hashol Shanim, like they didn't remove that. So when it comes to over here, certainly we can't remove Rabbi Yehuda's gezerah. So Shema Minah Lo Meboilu Mishule. It's clear that we're not supposed to do it. Lo Sharule. So again, unfortunately for him, he was not able to be excommunicated. He was not able to be removed, even though Rabbi Yehuda had died. Nafik, he went out. Kika Bachi Va'azal, he's crying. Asa Zibura, a snake or some type of insect came. Vitarke Amamate Ushchiv, and it bit him in his private area, and it caused this person to die. Ailuhi Marata, so they brought him to the grave, the Chasidei of righteous people. However, Kibluhu, it was not accepted. He wasn't able to get in there. Rashi says, Darna Achna Lamarata, that there was a snake by the opening of the cave, and it did not allow it to go in. Ailuhu l'marata. Again, they did not. Says the Gemara, "V'lo kibluhu ailuhu l'marata." He wasn't able to bring him into the cave. Did daini v'kibluhu? Says Rashi, Rosh Beistin v'chasidim adif minayu. So the Dayanim came and they were makabel him. So my timer, why were they makabel him at that moment? The Ovid Rabbi Eloi, because they passed like the shita of Rabbi Eloi. The sign of Eloi Omer Im Roy Adam She Yitzumas Gabrelov. If a person recognizes that they have a very strong Yitzhahara, so you should go to a place where people will not recognize you. You should wear dark clothing. And do what your heart wants. And do not go and before Hesia. Says Rashi, which means do the Avera. So Sham, since this person is not recognized in this area anymore, there's no longer Chil Hashem for this person. The Yarmelon Rebbe Mishum Rav Haigoin, the Yasem Ashili B'Chafetz, writes a limit of Vadik Ivan Shalav Shchayrim, Ani Arei B'Davar Shino Chafetz Mekan V'Elech Ba'Avera. So it's a very interesting vort. It's not saying that, so this is a hector to go and to do sin. No, obviously not. But the idea behind this is that if a person will do all these things, instead of saying, no, you can't do it, once you say, no, you can't do it, then that person is more likely to sin. Because they're not giving them an option. You say, no, you could sin, but you know what? I want you to sin over there, and I want you to get new clothing and change. So by the time you get there, hopefully you'll come to your senses. As it says by the Esha Shifas Torah, Parshas Kiseitze, it says that Lo Dibra Torah El Keneged Yetzahara. It doesn't mean that it's totally mutter, even though it's a machlok is Rashi and Taisos and Kedushin, but according to the Pshat that one is not allowed to be immediately, the same idea is that we tell you not that it is Aser, because if it's Aser, you'll immediately probably end up taking this Yifas Torah anyway. So we say, no, it's mutter, but you have to go through this process, this procedure. Again, that's a way of removing it. It says, Taisus, because of Rabbi Chananel, Chas v'sholom l'huter l'lasos avera el adi kach yichana liboy. It'll kind of break your spirits. Shivcha shel beis Rebbe Maihi. So he said this whole story about the maidservant of Rebbe. So what exactly is this referring to? The Amata de Rebbe, when it came to the this servant in Rebbe's house, Chazit lehu gabi, she saw a person, Dahavi mochi livnoi gadol, that this man was hitting his oldest child. Amra, she said, Lahavi yahu gavra b'shamta. You have no right to be hitting your child like this. Why? Because he's an adult, there's a very good chance that if you hit him, he's going to hit you back. And there's a terrible Torah prohibition of a child hitting his parent. So therefore, we should put the parent in cherem for hitting the child. Hitting a child who's older, so by you doing that, you may end up causing this child to end up striking back. Reish Lakish, which is an unbelievable idea, is that it just shows the power again of parenting, is that you have to be very careful about what you do, because what you do, they will learn from you. And because they're going to learn from you, so because they're going to end up hitting you back, they're going to end up getting, again, a tremendous punishment. Reish Lakish having Mantar Pardesa. Reish Lakish was watching a vineyard. Also, who gavra, a person came, but ka'achol te'eni, he was eating some figs. Rama beikola, so he was making a tumult. He basically ignored him. Basically, he was continuing eating the figs. Who gavra b'shamta. This person should be put into cherem for doing so. Who gavra b'shamta. You should be the one who's put into cherem, which is like what Reish Lakish do. That's what he said. So im mamoin nischayavti loch nidu mi nischayavti loch. If money I owe to you, so nidui am I obligated to you? So Says Rashi, Sholcha enu nidoi delav bedina shamte. You shouldn't be putting me in cherem. So also b'midrash amalei shelo nidoi sholcha enu nidoi. The nidoi for you, Reish Lakish, is actually kedai, that you should be put into nidoi for this. However, this person, what he did, would not constitute being excommunicated. Jumaita kante. So what is the remedy over here? Zilagabe de lishrilach. Go to someone who could remove it. Lo yadanale. So Reish Lakish says, I don't know who it was that put me in originally. So Amalei zilagabe nasiya. Then if you don't know who put you into cherem, you can go to the nasi, delishrilach, and he'll remove you. The sign in nidui ve'enu diamin nidahu. If you don't know who excommunicated you, yelach etzel nasi, you can go to the nasi. V'yatel nidoim, and he'll remove it. Amar Rav Huna, but Usha hiskinu, in Usha was instituted the av based in shesarach. If the av based in, you have the nasi, and the right below him is the av based in. If he did nevera in manadanaisa, we don't excommunicate him. El omerlo, we say, as the pasuk is quoted, he kabid v'shei b'veisecha. Basically, go and stay in your home. So we don't actually say that you are excommunicated, but we do ask him to quarantine nonetheless in his house. Chaz v'sarach. If let's say he continues to sin, this av based in, then manadanaisa, we will eventually excommunicate him in Michal Hashem. Who pleaded Reish Lakish. Remember Reish Lakish, Talmud Chacham, Shesarach. If you have a Talmud Chacham that sins, in Manadana Yisub Harhes, we're not going to excommunicate him in public. Shenemar v'kashalta hayom v'kashal gam novi imcha. Rather, laila kasehu kalayla. We cover him up just like the night. In other words, we just tell him, as we said, to basically stay in the house. However, Rashi says, Al tavaz oisav harhesa. We're not going to embarrass him in public. Marzutru chasida ki mechayev sumarabanan shamta. Whenever he felt that sumarabanan needed to be excommunicated, bereisha mashmat nashe. First, interestingly enough, Marzutru would excommunicate himself. V'hadar mashmit lididei. And then he would excommunicate the other person. Why would he do this? Mishum yikara dahu sumarabanan. In order to show respect to the sumarabanan, he first excommunicated himself and then him. Ki havi ayil bushbize. When he got to his house, shari le'lanashe. He removed it from himself. Ba'adeh shari le'lididei, and then he removed it from him. Amar Rav Gidol, Amar Rav, Talmud Chacham, Menadel Atzmo, Mefer Atzmo. Talmud Chacham could excommunicate himself, and he could also remove it himself. Amar Papa Teisi Li, Deloy Shemiti Sumer Rabbanim Oilam. He says, you should give me credit that I've never done this to a Talmud Chacham, that I've never excommunicated him. Ela Kikam Achayev Sumer Rabbanan Shamta Hechi Ovid. So why is that so good? If he actually deserves it, so what did you do? Kiha Dibim. What did they do in Eretz Yisrael? Minoi Angida. That they would they would be Angida the Sumer Rabbanan. They would give Malchus to the Sumer Rabbanan. V'loi Minu Shamta. But they did not put him in Cherem. So my Shamta, what does that word mean? So Rav Shamisa. There is your death. Because by being excommunicated, that's a form of being totally isolated, and it's a form of almost like death. Shmuel Omer Shemama Yiyeh, that you'll be rotting away. Ki Tichya Betanura, and you'll be comparable to the grease that's found in an oven. It says Rashi, Kishuman, like the fattiness, shetoichin as a tanur, v'nibel b'tocha, it gets like absorbed in the walls. Shein yoitzel oilam, you can't get it out. Komer makil cholman, the mishamtinan le, doli nafgaminil oilam. That when you're put into cherem, so you have this reputation that like tarnishes you. Pligid Reish Lakish, Reish Lakish, geshem shenechneses b'mosayim v'arboim u'shmoine mivarim, just like we enter with 248 limbs. We also leave with 248 limbs. When we enter the cherem. Cherem is gematria Mosayim ba'arboim u'shmoina habi. Kishehi yoytze dechsiv beroiges rachim tiskor. Rachim is begematria hachi habi. So that also has the same numerical value, 248, rachim, which is like mercy, and yet also the same word cherem, excommunication. So it's interesting, rachim and cherem seemingly are two totally different things, but there is an element of rachamim placed upon the person who is put into cherem, because that will teach that person obviously to be better. Rav Yosef Shadi Shamta Age Nuvta de Kalba. So he said that I placed a cherem on the tail of a dog. V'ihi dida avda. And for it takes effect. What does that mean? Says Rashi, Genufte is the zanav dehi avda umalkule. Tahu kalba dahavi ochil mitzani de rabbanan. There was a dog that was eating the shoes of the rabbanan. V'lahavi kayadi manhu. They didn't know who was it that was doing it. V'shamtule. They put it into cherem. So itli beit nura begenuvte ve'achalte. So they put it into the fire and this tail, and it was consumed. Fine. Hahu alma. There was this one strong person. He used to cause a lot of problems for this chacham. Also committed Rabbi Yosef Amalei Zil Shamte, go and excommunicate him. Amalei, thanks for that advice, but mistapinamine, I'm afraid of the guy. He's going to hurt me. Amalei Shakili Psicha Ale. Says Rashi, Shakil Lichtei Shamta. Write it down to him. So don't go to him and say it, but just write it down and hand it to him. So what I mean, Kol Shekain Demistapinamine. I'm going to be even more afraid to do that. Amalei Shakle Achte Bekada. That you should take it in a jug of some type of container as we continue to Yud Zayin Mebez. V'achte Bekavre. And you should basically just place it before him. V'karebe alfa shipuri barboin yomi yomin ozel. And you should call 1,000 shofar blasts barboin yomin ozel for 40 days it'll go. Says Rashi, v'achti b'kada, taka b'teich akad, v'lo yishmu. Be'kavri, d'loshchichi tamon inchi. So go and put it over there in the basic vorus where people are not commonly found. Abin Hachi did this, and Pakakada, the jug broke, umes alma, and this person ended up dying. Maishi puri shenifroin mimenu, my tavra. So he says regarding the shofar, shipuri sheniproin mimenu, that he paid back. What does it mean, this receipt? What's it referring to? Rabbi Yehuda Tavri Bati Rami. Desanya Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Kol Makam Shenasu Chachamim Inehem Omisa O Oini. So Rashi says, basically, what you did was we Tavri Bati Rami. Kolaimer Shamta Mishaber Batim Givoyim. When it can break large, big homes. Because when it has to do like an ayin hara, that when a person gives an ayin hara, then what can end up happening is misa or oini. So therefore, this is what was placed upon this person, and he died. Okay. So now we're finally going back to a Mishnah, which your guess is as good as mine where this Mishnah is found. Way back. So it's the beginning of the parak, Daf Yodalid. So it says, actually on Yud Gimel Mebez, Nazir b'Matzaira Matumasal Tarasai, and so he says that these are different people that are able to get haircuts. They're Megalchen b'Moed on Chol HaMoed. And one of them is a Nazir Mitzayra Mitumasal Taraso, and they become pure. So the Gemara asks the question: Rabbi Yomi Rabbi Zera, Bishlo Haya Panai or Dilma Al Av Kishahoyalhem Panai. Are we talking about a situation where he had time or they didn't have time to get the haircut before this? So Amalei Tanina, we learned Kol Elu Sha'amru, all the times that we mentioned in our Mishnah that we allow Galeach B'Moed Shlo Haya Panai. That's because they had no other time to do it, and therefore we allow it on Chol Moed because they couldn't have done it before. However, if there was time, then in fact the deduction is clear. They're not allowed to get the haircut on Chol Moed. Nazir Matzaira Afal Pi Shahaylam Panai Mutarin. However, interestingly enough, when it comes to a Nazir Matzaira, even if they did have time before, we're still going to allow them to get haircuts and to be able to bring their karbanos. Why? Shliyasher karbanos seihen. Because otherwise they may delay. Says Rashi, the Nazir Matzara ein mavin karbanos seihen ali acher giluach. They're not allowed to bring the karbanos until they get their haircut. And as the Psukim say, Hilchah, says Rashi, loy kansina lahu b'lu avdi mikmei regel. Even though they should have cut their hair before, but the fact is, since they didn't, we're now concerned that if we push it off way more, they're going to end up delaying their karbanos. Says Rashi, the mutav l'karb zman hakrav v'lo acher. Better that they should be mocked their karbanos at the right time and not later. Tana hakayin ba'avel, a kohen and a mourner, mutan b'giluach. They're allowed to get their hair cut. So, hi avel hechidami. What are we talking about? Ilema shechal shmini shloi be'erev haregel. So the 8th day was on Erev Pesach. So if that's the situation, iboyli gucha be'erev haregel, then they should have gotten the haircut on Erev haregel, because if the 7 days have passed, so now they're in the status of shloshim on Erev haregel. Says Rashi that we learn the Mishnah later on in Yud Tes. Hakover meso. Person who buries his dead shmoni yomim koydem haregel, batul menig gzeres lamed yomim. Even shloshim is removed. Umuta b'giluach, he can get a haircut on Erev Yom Tov. Hoyu kvar hiskil yom echad min shloshim, since he began shloshim. So therefore, we say mixes yom kakulo, that the shiva ended after 7 days. Now it's the 8th day, is Erev Yom Tov, whatever it is. So that already started shloshim. And now that it's Erev Yom Tov, since he started shloshim and Yom Tov is mavatal the shloshim, so therefore he could have actually done it on Erev Yom Tov. Says Rashi, v'zeh hoyel v'lo gilech Erev haregel lo yigilech b'regel. Since he really should have done it, certainly in that situation, we will not allow him to get a haircut during Chol Moed. The problem is that his 8th day, which happens to be Erev haregel, also happens to be on Shabbos. So even though the Shabbos technically is his shloshim, the beginning of his shloshim, and it's mavatal, but you can't get a haircut on Shabbos, so therefore you have no choice. Where it says, 1 second, you boil Erev Shabbos. So why don't we let him cut a haircut on Erev Shabbos, which happens to be his 7th day? Because mixes Yom Kikulo on the 7th day, which finishes up his Shiva, and maybe also we'll say that then Shloshim immediately kicks in, and therefore, because it's Erev Yom Tov, he's able to get his haircut. The halacha is like Abba Shoil that holds the din of mixes Yom Kikulo. Umodim chachamim Abba Shoil, and they do agree to him, k'shachol shmini shul yos b'Shabbos, Erev haregel, shematul ge'ech b'Erev Shabbos, that they actually hold that one is allowed to do this. That when the 8th day is Shabbos, and it happens to be it's Erev Yom Tov, whatever it is, and it falls out on Shabbos, so we allow him to get a haircut on Erev Shabbos. So therefore, why would we say that person's allowed to get a haircut in that situation during Chol Moed? He could have done it before. So we're saying, not that the 8th day fell out that time, but the 7th day fell out on Erev Yom Tov, which was on Shabbos. So it's true that the 7th day, again, it was removed, and because the Shiva's over and Shloshim will be removed once by Yom Tov, But you can't get a haircut on the seventh day because the seventh day is Shabbos. So you can't say, oh, so do it the day before. The day before is the sixth day. The sixth day certainly can't do it. Fine. So therefore, the case of our Mishnah is the sixth day was Erev Shabbos. So it's a machlokus. We're going to see if it's an oinus. We're going to see that the Tanakhama say it's not. So you can't get a haircut on Chol HaMoed. Abba Shol holds you could get a haircut on Chol HaMoed as it's an oinus. So Abba Shol, actually, they argue in this case, and Abba Shol holds that even in this situation, Yutaka can get a haircut on Chol HaMoed. You obviously can't get a haircut on Erev Shabbos because that's the sixth day. The whole question is, can you get a haircut on Chol HaMoed? Tanakhama say you can't. However, again, in the situation where the eighth day would fall out on Erev Yom Tov, and in that situation, even if it was on Shabbos, everyone holds that he could have gotten a haircut on the seventh day, on Erev Shabbos. So therefore, that would not allow him to get a haircut on Chol HaMoed. Tana Bara, Savar Law Kalba Shoyel, Diarma Mixas Yom Kukulai. We actually hold like this concept that even a partial day is like a day. Yom Shvi Oil Lakan Lakan. And therefore, the seventh day, again, assuming, let's talk about Erev Shabbos, is the seventh day, so that's Oil Lakan Lakan. And therefore, the eighth day, which is Shabbos, which is Erev Yom Tov, so he's allowed to get a haircut on Erev Shabbos because Oil Lakan Lakan. Because basically what happens is that, as we said, that the Shiva ends, mixes Yom Kikulo, and then Shoshim kicks in, and then that ends. You can get a haircut then. Kivan is Shabbos Habi Oinis, who, since Shabbos is an Oinis, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't get a haircut on Shabbos. Tanda Didan, Sevel Kurabanan. The Rabbanan hold like the Rabbanan. The army Luyamrina mixes Yom Kikulo. We don't say mixes Yom Kikulo. The Akati will show him a Velas to Shiva. He hasn't completed the seventh day, because the seventh day is on Shabbos, and the reality is you can't get a haircut on Friday, and therefore, if you hold that it's an oinus, then he can get a haircut. But the Rabbanan do not hold like this. Fine. Hi koin hechidami. Ilema dishalim shamarta regel. So we're talking about that there's 24 mishmaros. So he goes and he needs to have his haircut. The problem is that when it comes to his being one of the one of the mishmaros, he has to go there and he has to get a haircut. But what if it turns out it's erev haregel? So you boil a gulche erev haregel. So it means just get a haircut on erev Yom Tov. That actually it's on he completed his shmira on the regel itself. So therefore, because of that, again, according to this pshat, he's not able to get a haircut then. So maybe he can get a haircut before. Tandidan savar kivandit nan b'shloisha prakim b'shana hayu kol mishmaros shavos. We say at the end of Masechta Sukkah, mamash at the end of Masechta Sukkah, that all 24 mishmaros are equal in certain regards. 3 times a year during the Shlosh Regalim, all the mishmaros are equal. Be'imuri haregolim, when it comes to the sacrificial parts of the regolim, bechiluk lechem aponim, and giving of the lechem aponim. So come on, deloy shalom mishmarto beregel dami. It's like he didn't complete his shmir yet, so he can't get a haircut on Chol HaMoed. Okay. V'tana brasav ra'afagav the shayach bahadach mishmaros mishmarte miha shlimule. He did finish it, and fine. So that's the whole debate. So let's look at a couple of these Rashis. Let's look at this Rashi. Savrik Rabbanan the Armiloy Amrina mixes Yom Kikulo Ela Shiva Shleiman Bi'inon. The Kati L'Sholom Avelos the Shiva Kaidim Haregel Loy Havi Oinus. Loy Matzigu, and therefore if you Loy Havi Shabbos Lo Matzig Galeach Lohachi in Megaleach B'Moed. So again, according to the Rabbanan, you're not allowed to be Megaleach if the eighth day is Shabbos Erev Yom Tov. Since he didn't complete that they, because again they don't hold Mixus Yom Kikulo, so that Erev Shabbos is still he's still sitting Shiva. See the Rashi, Dishli Mishmar Beregel. Going the Havi Yom Chamishi, Yom Rishon Shel Regel. The fifth Thursday was the first day of the holiday. Do Matzah Galeach, he couldn't get a haircut. The Havi Yom Tov. B'Shalom Mishmar to B'Shabbos, he completed his being the Mishmar on Shabbos. Shehu Yom Shlishi Uregel, which happened to be the third day of the holiday. So Tani Didan Di Amar Einu Megalech B'Moed. Why doesn't he allow him to get a haircut? Because we said, because he together with everyone else, they're all part of it. It says Rashi, Lo Shalom Mishmarto B'Chol Regel. He didn't complete his Shmira. Kidanan Anshi Mishmar Sun Legaleach. And we know that Anshi Mishmar are not allowed to get haircuts. And since they didn't complete the Shmira, therefore they're not allowed to get a haircut during that time. However, the other time that says you are allowed to Megaleach says next Rashi, Sholem Iker Mishmarto. He finished basically the main part of what he did, and that's why he's allowed to get a haircut. Okay. Weiter in the Gemara. V'tana b'ra sabra afal adu shayach b'hadach mishmaros mishmarte mia shlema. He completed his regular shmira, and therefore now he's allowed to get a haircut because he's not considered to be a shimer, because the din of mishmar is aser galeach. It doesn't fall into this category. Tanabanim. Kol elu she'omer mutar l'galeach b'moyed mutar l'galeach b'mei evlei. Anytime we say a person's allowed to get a haircut during Chol Moed, we also allow the same heterim, someone who is in a status of mourning. Vasanya asurin, we learn elsewhere it's not allowed. So Rav Chisda, Rav Shila, Kitanya Hacha, Mutarin Bishitachvuhu Evloi. In a situation where he's like doubled up, like Kefel, he has this double of mourning. Namely, one of his relatives died, and immediately afterwards, without him having a break, again it happened again. So in that situation, we're even more makel, and we allow him to get a haircut. Let's see if Rashi discusses this. Hat Tani Kaflu Avolov Makel Batar. Okay. Weiter in the Gemara. So, if let's say again he became an avel back to back, one after the other, my iri kol elu she'amru afilu kol yalmanami. So this applies for everyone. Desanya, any avel tachfuhu evlav zachar zeh hichbid sa'aro. If his hair is long, makel batar, he can lighten it with a razor. Mechabis b'chsusi b'mayim. He can't use soap, but he can launder his clothes to the best of his ability with water. So Rav Chisda batar v'lo b'misparayim. He can use a razor but not scissors. B'mayim v'lo b'neser, not soap. V'lo b'ohel and not oil. Rav Chisda zoyis emeres avol aser b'miskaises. It shows that an avel is not allowed to launder. So now let's look at Rashi. Hoyet marlo hadet tanich tachvu avalov mekel batar v'misparayim. When we're talking about a regular avel, that regular avel, if he has hair that's bothering him, he could lighten it, but he can't use scissors. The kaasi bryce the chol hani shemutar legalech b'moed mutar legalech b'mei evloi. When we say anything that's allowed during these heterim to shave on Chol Moed, we allow an avel is kishetachvu evlav umegalech b'misparayim. So that's what it's coming to tell you. The chiddush is, you're right, any avel, if let's say his hair is bothering him, he can gently touch it up with a razor. However, when it comes to someone in this situation where he became an avel back to back, one after the other, then we even allow him to use scissors. Fine. Rav Chisda zoyis emeres avel aser betich boises. Tanabanan. Kashem shomer aser galech b'moed. Just like you can't shave on Chol Moed, kach aser little siparnayim b'moed. You can't cut your nails. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosi mater, kashem she'amar avel asal galech b'mei evloi, kach asal litel sepranayim b'mei evloi. Same thing, just like on Chol Moed when we'll cut our nails, so too the din is when it comes to an avel should not cut his nails. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosi mater. So we have a machlokus when it comes to Moed, we have a machlokus when it comes to avel. And Rabbi Yosi in both situations is lenient. So Amar Ula halacha Rabbi Yehuda ba'avel. When it comes to avelus, we're strict, and you're not allowed to cut your nails. But halacha Rabbi Yosi b'Moed and Chol Moed, we are lenient. We say you could cut your nails. Shmuel Omer, as we continue to Yud Chesed and Aleph halacha kedivi Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi, we, as we see in Masechtas Erevin, we generally pass on Rabbi Yosi. B'Moed uba avel the Amar Shmuel halacha kedivi hamekil be'avel. So we have this important sensitivity, this concept, this halacha, that when it comes to the din of avelus, we always choose the divrei hamekel. We choose the more lenient opinion. And therefore, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yosi, who says that a person is allowed to cut their nails, not just on Chol HaMoed, but you can also do this as an avel, as someone in mourning. Okay, let's see maybe a couple of questions here. Question 10. Be'ez oifen matzinu heter l'avel galech b'misparayim b'mei evloi. Where do we find that we actually allow him to cut with scissors? So we just saw this, and the answer is in the event of utachpuhu evelov, if he's mourning one after the other, or kol elu she'amru mutar legalech b'moed. All those different people that we said are allowed to shave on the moed, we also allow them to shave with scissors. They could actually are able to use scissors. So again, all those other situations that we mentioned, that mutar legalech b'moed, we said they are also allowed to be a galech on Chol HaMoed as well. Okay, TA 8. Elu kalim shor lechabsim b'chol shemoyed, which I don't think we did. We're going to see it on tomorrow's daf. TB 8. Be'eza mikra moedim chachamim la'abashoyel is a hard answer. In which situation does the chachamim agree? Do the chachamim agree to abashoyel lagech miyom shvi? And the answer is in the event that the 8th day is on Shabbos, which is Erev HaRegel. So we said, even though they normally say they don't hold mixus yom kikulo, but actually because the 8th day is already Erev Yom Tov, but the problem is you can't get a haircut on Erev Yom Tov because it's Shabbos. So the Chachamim say in that case we will allow this concept of mixus yom kikulo to kick in, and therefore Shvi will be over, and then it'll be Shloishim, and then the Yom Tov will be Mavatalit. So therefore, in that situation where the 8th day falls out on Shabbos, that's Erev Yom Tov, Erev Yom Tov Shchol Yos B'Shabbos. So the din is that you are allowed to get a haircut in that situation, even according to the Rabbanan, on Friday. However, they are chaylik. Abba Shol holds that even if the 7th day is on Shabbos, that Erev Yom Tov Shechol Yos B'Shabbos is the 7th day. Even in that situation, he holds that you could get, not that you can get a haircut before, but he matters you to get a haircut on Chol HaMoed because he considers it an oinus, like Shabbos is an oinus. However, according to the Rabbanan, says not Adkan.